Just before the jury went in to deliberate, they were given jury instructions from the judge. So joining us now to talk to us a little bit more about what jury instructions are, what they all mean, is our legal analyst, Jeff Hosford from Hosford Law Firm. Jeff, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we've all heard the term jury instructions. Of course, this is what the judge tells the jury before they actually go back to start deliberating. What exactly are jury instructions?
Jury instructions are the law that's given to the jury to follow to determine whether or not that person is guilty of the charge that's charged, or whether or not the plaintiff has a case in which they can win.
Now, during those instructions, will the judge tell a jury options that they have under certain circumstances, things that could arise?
Yeah, typically, the jury instruction says you must find this, 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 and this in order to convict an individual. It then can go on to say if you don't find this but you find these, then you can convict this individual of this. If the state fails to prove all of these points beyond a reasonable doubt, then you shall find the defendant not guilty.
Now, obviously, juries are made up of just, regular, everyday folks, end up on juries. How much legal knowledge does one need to have to actually understand the instructions? I mean, how does the judge help the jury to understand exactly what they need to do?
Well, typically, the jury instructions are put in language that the juror can understand. They try not to make them too complex. Sometimes complex cases require complex instructions, but typically they take them and put them in as easy language for anyone to understand as you can without diluting the law.
And finally, I'll ask you, once the jury goes in to start deliberating and a question arises, or they have a question about something that's come up, will the judge allow them to ask a question of him before they continue?
Typically, they have to knock on the door. They wait for the bailiff to come to the door. And once the bailiff's there, the bailiff will tell them to write their question down on a piece of paper. That piece of paper is then taken into the courtroom and handed to the judge, and the judge then calls them in and can or cannot answer the question depending on what he thinks is best.
All right. Well, we always appreciate your perspective, and really it's a fascinating process to watch. We'll thank you so much, Jeff. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for having me.
All right.